The bell above the door of the vault, a high-end boutique in Manhattan's Soho district, chimed with a sound that felt more like a judgment than a welcome. Chloe Lawson, a 29-year-old graphic designer, stepped inside. She had just landed her biggest client yet. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't just window shopping. In her hand was a sleek, obsidian black credit card from First Republic Trust, a card with a six-figure limit she qualified for after months of building her business. Her target was a tailored, emerald green blazer, displayed on a minimalist mannequin. It was a statement piece, a reward, a tangible symbol of her success. A sales clerk, a young woman in her early 20s named Brittany, with a sharply angled bob and a smile that didn't reach her eyes, detached herself from a register. "Can I help you?" she asked, her gaze performing a swift, head-to-toe assessment of Chloe's stylish but off-the-rack jeans and sneakers. "I'd like to try this on, please." "Size 6, Chloe said, her voice confident. A flicker of surprise crossed Brittany's face, quickly masked. "Of course. The fitting rooms are this way." The blazer was perfect. It fit as if it had been tailored for her. Feeling empowered, Chloe decided to buy it on the spot. She walked to the counter and placed the blazer and her black credit card down. Brittany picked up the card. She ran her thumb over its textured surface, her brow furrowing. She glanced at Chloe, then back at the card. "I'll need to see a second form of ID," Brittany stated, her tone suddenly cold and formal. "A second ID?" Chloe repeated, confused. "My driver's license is right there, and that's a primary credit card." "Store policy for high-value transactions," Brittany said, her voice clipped. She held the card up to the light, then attempted to bend it slightly. "The hologram seems off, and the chip, it doesn't look right. This could be a counterfeit." Chloe felt a hot flush of humiliation. The other, wealthy-looking customers in the store were now glancing over. "It's not counterfeit. I can assure you it's very real. You can call the bank. The number is on the back." "I'm going to have to confiscate this," Brittany said, her voice rising with performative authority. She made a move to put the card into a drawer behind the counter. "We have a zero-tolerance policy for fraud." "You are not confiscating my property," Chloe said, her own voice sharpening, cutting through the boutique's hushed atmosphere. The word fraud hung in the air, toxic and damning. "Give me back my card. Now." "I can't do that," Brittany insisted, clutching the card. "Not until I'm sure it's legitimate. You can wait for the manager if you'd like, but he's not in today." It was a standoff. Chloe was being publicly accused and detained over a piece of plastic that represented her financial independence. The coded language was clear. Asterisk a young black woman with a card like this? Impossible. She must have stolen it. Asterisk. Just then, the boutique door chimed again. A man in his late 40s, wearing an impeccably tailored charcoal gray suit, walked in. He had an air of unassuming authority, and he was heading straight for the counter, intending to ask a question about a watch display. Brittany, seeing a well-dressed white man, immediately switched personas. Her defensive posture softened. "Sir, thank goodness. This woman is trying to use a fraudulent credit card, and she's becoming aggressive." The man, whose name was David Chun, stopped. He looked from Brittany's triumphant face to Chloe's furious, humiliated one. His eyes then dropped to the card still in Brittany's hand. His expression didn't change, but a subtle shift occurred in his demeanor. "That's a rather serious accusation," David said, his voice calm and even. "I know it's awful," Brittany simpered, "but we have to be vigilant." David reached into the inner breast pocket of his own suit jacket. He didn't pull out a wallet. He produced a single matte black business card and placed it on the glass counter between them. "My name is David Chun," he said, his voice still quiet, but now carrying a weight that silenced the entire store. "I am the Chief Executive Officer of First Republic Trust, the bank that issued the card you are currently attempting to unlawfully confiscate." Brittany's face went blank with pure, uncomprehending shock. She looked at the business card. "David Chun, CEO, First Republic Trust." She looked at the credit card in her hand. The logos matched perfectly. The blood drained from her face, so quickly she swayed on her feet. David turned to Chloe, his expression filled with profound, professional apology. Ma'am, on behalf of my bank, I am so very sorry for this unacceptable experience. Your card is, of course, perfectly valid. In fact, you are one of our most valued Onyx-tier clients. He then looked back at Brittany, his gaze turning to ice. The only fraud being committed here is the fraud you are perpetrating against this customer's character and dignity. He plucked the credit card from Brittany's limp fingers and handed it back to Chloe. Your purchase today is on First Republic Trust, he said to Chloe. And your next 10 purchases, anywhere, are on us. This is the absolute least we can do. Brittany found her voice, a strangled whisper. I was just following policy. No, David corrected, his voice finally showing an edge. You were following prejudice. And as of this moment, your relationship with this establishment and any other retailer in our corporate network is terminated. He turned to the other stunned clerk. Please package the blazer for this client and ring it up as a $0 transaction with my authorization. As the blazer was bagged and handed to a speechless Chloe, David gave Brittany one last, disappointed look. You judged a book by its cover, he said. You just didn't realize the cover belonged to the owner of the library. The story, as these things do in the digital age, exploded. A fellow shopper had filmed the entire confrontation on her phone. The video, titled CEO Obliterates Racist Clerk Who Refused Black Woman's Card, went viral overnight. Hashtag First Republic and hashtag The Vault were trending globally. The court of public opinion was swift and brutal. The Vault's parent company fired Brittany and issued a groveling public apology to both Chloe and David Chun. But David knew this was a symptom, not the sickness. He invited Chloe to his office on the top floor of the First Republic Tower, a room with a breathtaking view of the city. This wasn't an isolated incident, was it? David asked, gesturing for her to sit. Chloe let out a humorless laugh. Isolated? It's a Tuesday. The only thing that made it different was you walking in. Most of the time, there's no CEO to hand you your card back. David steepled his fingers. Then we changed Tuesday. I don't just want to apologize. I want to fix the system that enabled this. He laid out his idea. First Republic is one of the largest payment processors in the country. We have partnerships with tens of thousands of retailers. I want to create a fair transaction seal, a certification for retailers who complete a mandatory, accredited training program for their staff on unconscious bias, anti-discrimination, and financial inclusion. Chloe's eyes widened. You're talking about a massive undertaking. It is, David agreed, and I want you to help me design it. I want your perspective, your experience at the table. We'll call it the Fair Pay Initiative. He slid a contract across the table. As a senior consultant, your usual rate plus equity. It was more than a job offer. It was a validation. It was turning her humiliation into her horsepower. Meanwhile, the backlash from the other side began. On a conservative cable news channel, a pundit railed against the woke mob and cancel culture, framing Brittany as a hard-working girl destroyed by a billionaire and his angry friend. A hashtag Justice for Brittany, was started by a fringe group, claiming the whole event was a setup. The most significant resistance, however, came from within David's own boardroom. David, this is a noble idea, but it's a regulatory nightmare, argued one board member, a man named Robert Vance. We're a bank, not the social justice police. We can't strong-arm our business partners into taking political training. It's not political, Robert. David fired back. It's ethical, and it's good business. Trust is our product. How can we sell trust when our cardholders can't trust they'll be treated with dignity when they use our cards? The bottom line is our product. Robert countered. This initiative will cost millions. We'll lose clients who don't want to be lectured. The Fair Pay Initiative is a fantasy. The board was split. David had the final say as CEO. But pushing this through a divided board would be seen as tyrannical and could destabilize his leadership. Chloe, now working from a corner office, saw the internal reports. She saw the numbers Robert was talking about, but she also saw something else. They think this is about feelings, she said to David in a strategy meeting. We need to show them it's about money. She and her small team crunched the data. They found that retailers with higher customer satisfaction scores across diverse demographics had, on average, 15% higher repeat business. They commissioned a study that showed 68% of consumers under 40 were more likely to shop at a store displaying a fair transaction seal. They weren't just selling morality, they were selling a market advantage. David presented this data at the next board meeting, with Chloe by his side. She spoke not with emotion, but with cold, hard facts, her graphic design skills now building stunning, persuasive infographics. Discrimination isn't just wrong, Chloe concluded, her voice echoing in the silent, wood-paneled room. It's unprofitable. This initiative isn't a cost. It's an investment in the future of retail, and more importantly, in the future of this bank. The data was undeniable. Robert Vance sat in sullen silence. The board voted. The Fair Pay Initiative was approved. But as the meeting adjourned, Robert leaned over to David. You've won the battle, Chun, but you've made a powerful enemy. You're turning this institution into a laughingstock. The threat was veiled, but it was real. The Fair Pay Initiative launched to great fanfare. Major national chains signed on, eager for the positive PR and competitive edge. Chloe was hailed as a visionary, her face on the cover of business magazines. For a few months, it seemed they had truly changed the world. Then the sabotage began. First, a damaging, anonymous op-ed was published in a major financial paper. It claimed the data behind the initiative was statistically dubious and potentially fabricated, citing unnamed sources within First Republic. The stock dipped. Next, a key retail partner suddenly pulled out of the program, citing internal concerns. Chloe's sources told her they'd been quietly threatened with less favorable transaction fees by someone high up at the bank. The final blow came when David was summoned to an emergency board meeting. Robert Vance sat at the opposite end of the table, a folder in front of him. David. Robert began, his tone one of full regret. The Fair Pay Initiative is becoming a liability. The bad press, the stock volatility, the loss of key partners. I'm calling for a vote of no confidence in your leadership. The bank needs stability, not social experiments. He had the votes. He had been working the back channel for months, preying on the other members' fears. David was about to be ousted. Just then, Chloe entered the boardroom, unannounced. She didn't have an invitation, but she had something more important, evidence. Before you take that vote, she said, her voice clear and steady, you should all see this. She placed a USB drive on the table. This is a recording of a call between Mr. Vance and the CEO of the retail partner that just dropped out. In it, Mr. Vance explicitly offers him preferential financial treatment in exchange for leaving the initiative and publicly discrediting it. Robert Vance shot to his feet, his face purple with rage. This is illegal. You can't record private conversations. It's not me, Chloe said calmly. The CEO you call was a client I helped bring into the Fair Pay program. He believes in it. And he was so offended by your attempt to bribe him into betraying its principles that he recorded the call and sent it to me. He has a zero-tolerance policy for corruption. She had turned Robert's own weapon against him. The room was in an uproar. David looked at Robert, not with anger, but with pity. You tried to destroy this bank's integrity to satisfy your own prejudice. Robert. Security. Please escort Mr. Vance from the building. He is no longer a member of this board. With Robert Vance gone, the vote of no confidence evaporated. The Fair Pay Initiative was not only secure, it was now untouchable. A year later, the Fair Transaction Seal was a recognizable symbol of integrity in stores across the country. Chloe Lawson was no longer a consultant. She was the vice president of financial inclusion at First Republic Trust. She was walking through a department store, now a partner, and saw the seal displayed proudly by the entrance. At a register, a young black teenager was confidently purchasing a prom dress with her own debit card. The clerk smiled, processed the payment without a second glance, and wished her a wonderful time. Chloe watched, a slow smile spreading across her face. The system hadn't just been beaten, it had been rebuilt, one transaction at a time. The end.